Welcome in. It's the Wednesday live chat, this time for the Worldwide Technology Championship, an event that used to be played in Mayakoba, now played in Cabo at a Tiger Woods golf course. So what we'll do right now is go through weather, ownership. We can look at the golf course from above. We can run through the tools on RickRunGood.com, but this time is really yours. However you want to use it, go ahead, leave your questions, concerns, and comments in the chat right now as we cross over more than halfway through the FedEx Cup Fall. We're 4 events in, 3 to go. Obviously, after this week, there will only be 2 remaining. Let's start with any weather concerns. Generally just easier to go ahead and do that at the start of the show, and then we don't ever have to do it again. And this certainly looks like paradise, certainly looks like Cabo del Sol, certainly looks like it's going to be some beautiful resort golf. 83, 84, 85, 86 degrees all week long. The only small changes in the predicted wind speeds are like 4 miles an hour to 8 miles an hour. You know, the windiest as of right now that this week is going to get is basically going to be Friday afternoon. You're talking about maybe 6, 7, or 8 mile an hour winds, which is not usually much to be concerned about. So looking at the forecast, looks clean, looks beautiful, does not look like there is going to be a weather or a wave advantage. I'm going to jump around real quick because I think that is a really good segue into this question from Colin, which is what will be the defense for this golf course? And I think Colin is asking the $1 million question here. What will be the defense of this golf course? What is the defense of most golf courses? Firm and fast conditions. We know that length is not generally a defense on the PGA Tour. Unlucky or a wide range of penalties that can come into play, both off the tee and on approach shots. Those are usually the types of things that are able to play defense. Very tricky, difficult green, things of that nature, right? I'm not sure I see any of those. This is a golf course that from above looks like every other resort golf course. Incredibly wide landing areas. I've covered this ad nauseum this week. 65 upwards of 100 yards wide in some places. The defense in the fairways is bunkering, but that's not really a big defense for PGA Tour players, especially because you could just play away from them with no wind. It's not going to be that much of an issue. These massive greens, over 8,000 square feet on average, will be receptive. The water hazard that does come into play is not in play for the professionals. It just really does not look like they're going to be able to do anything here. And I don't know why they would. 51 weeks a year. This is designed for guys like me on vacation, having a great time. And otherwise the pros are going to shred it. That seems to be the case. So I do not know what the defense is on this golf course. I do not necessarily see it. All right, let me get back into a little bit of order here. So DFS Chef says he's got $15,100 for his final 2 spots. Is it Davis Riley and EVR, or it's Sam Ryder and Vince Whaley? I probably prefer the latter here. So that would be Ryder and Whaley. So I am of the belief, and this is my website, RickRunGood.com, that Sam Ryder is, I think, so there's a lot of average players on the PGA Tour. I think he is better than average. I think that he has shown the ability to, when he has his good stuff, actually contend at golf tournaments, which is not necessarily the case for a lot of guys. Now, he is generally, or has been, more inaccurate off the tee. That doesn't necessarily matter here. Then you look at Vince Whaley, and I think this is actually a pretty good stat profile. He hits it hard. He has gained essentially across the board in all 3 of his of his fall starts. And then he's got this Boise Open going back to his last Corn Ferry start, where he's put 4 really good events together. So I probably prefer the latter half of that. It does give an opportunity to segue into a couple of questions about Erik van Rooyen, so we can just cover this right now. EVR is seemingly going to be pretty popular this week. A lot of questions about him. I've seen his name pop up quite a bit. If you look at the ownership projections on RickRunGood.com, I have him currently at 11% projected ownership, which is one of the more popular golfers in that 7K range and certainly in the middle of the 7K range. So a lot of people are going to EVR, and I assume they are doing it because of what you're seeing right here. A resurgence in ball striking. You know, this really horrible stretch that he went through from Colonial to the Scottish Open, where he was hemorrhaging strokes on his second shot, has seemingly been flipped on its head. Gained 7.5, at the Barracuda, 4 at the Omega Masters, 5 at the Fortinet, 5 at the Saracen Farms, and 4 at the Shriners Children's Open. If you're not using RickRunGood.com and getting the European Tour stats, you would have missed out on 2 really good finishes there. The question for me is a couple of things. Will his around the green matter play? Now, these are large enough greens where the answer to that should be no. So, like, just go hit a bunch of greens. Don't worry about chipping and putting. The other thing to worry about is those large greens do usually increase the 3-putt percentage. Obviously, they're larger greens. If you have an 80-foot putt, you're more likely to 3-putt that than a 40-foot putt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's not a very good lag putter. So really, based on what I see here, the questions are, will EVR's putter allow him to make a deep run in this thing? You don't necessarily need him to win the golf tournament at $7,400, or if you're betting him at whatever his outright number is currently. So I would say that's the one thing that we need to keep an eye on, but generally quite bullish. Gdup State of the Union. Yeah, here's another guy who seemingly every time he gets an opportunity to tee it up is generally quite popular. Now, he is priced pretty significantly. Yeah, $8,200 and 10% ownership. He and Taylor Pendrith at the bottom of that 8K range, grabbing a little bit of the ownership there along with Davis Thompson. So for me, Chris Gdup is and has been the skill set guy for a really long time. Right. And he's got a bunch of good Korn Ferry Tour results here. He's played like 12 events in a row in which he's gained strokes to the field. He is a very long off the tee. This should be the type of setup for him. However, we have said that before. I am probably going to need to see it once or twice on the PGA Tour. And also, especially for this week, you know, if he was $7,500, I think I'd be a lot more interested. Or if he wasn't priced in a very similar way to Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith is a more accomplished version of Chris Gdup. I think that's pretty fair to say. Both have similar skill sets. Taylor Pendrith has done it longer, and he's done it better. So it's just kind of an awkward situation for him. If he was priced a little bit different, a little bit cheaper, if Pendrith wasn't hanging right there, yeah, I mean, there's ways for me to get excited about Gdup very, very quickly in the next coming weeks. Could we get a deep dive on Nick Hardy? Sure. Why not? Let's see what Nick Hardy, I almost called him Chris Hardy. Nick Hardy has been up to. So he finished T41 at the Zozo Championship. We do not have the strokes gain breakdown. The PGA Tour does not take the shot link data over there. This is a continuing stretch of golf that I do not find much appeal in. Lost strokes to the field in 4 out of 5. That includes events this fall. The one event that he played his best golf at was in Napa, T35 there. I mean, really, after the win, and even before the win at the Zurich, remember, we talked a lot about Nick Hardy last year. He hasn't really done much, right? He backed into a win with Davis Riley at the Zurich, didn't play particularly well after that. If you look at some of the metrics, I don't know where he's going to separate from the rest of the field. You know, shots from 175 to 200, if he could get a bunch of those, maybe he could separate, but you're talking about maybe a handful in that range this week and a lot of other places to lose. So unfortunately, it's not a great setup and a great stat profile for Nick Hardy. Who are some of the players that you're looking at this week that have a good shot to make the top 10? Well, I assume usually when this question gets asked, it's because people want like longer shots. So I will just tell you, I've bet on Cam Champ to finish inside the top 20. I've bet Taylor Pendrith to finish inside the top 20. I think what you're looking for in terms of types of golfers are ones that can make a bunch of birdies, can get hot, and are not going to have their weaknesses or their strengths minimized, for example. So basically, if you're a short but accurate driver, that's going to be pretty tough. Admittedly, Hank says, any jock market tonight? No power hour tonight for us. We've been asked to take the fall off and look towards next year. So good luck there, Hank. Chris says, hey, Rick, played Ryo Ishikawa last week and he had a great week. What are your thoughts on his chances earlier this week on an easier golf course? Yeah. So you get the knock of Ishikawa not playing in his native Japan, not playing in conditions that he's probably very familiar with, not playing at potentially a golf course that he was very familiar with. Now, I have the Asian tour on RickRunGood.com. I've got 6 tours. The tour that I don't have, which maybe I can try to acquire, is the Japanese golf tour. And he has been crushing it over there. You can decide where you think that falls into the ranks of everything that's going on in the game of golf. But he's got a runner-up finish. He's got like 6 top 10 finishes in his last 10, something outrageous like that. So he's playing great golf, played awesome at the Zozo with a 4th place finish. And yeah, he's actually probably one of my more interesting favorite options coming out of that. Where is he? He is right here. $6,700. $6,700. Pretty cheap. Thoughts on Brent Grant for a top 20? Yeah. So if you know anything about Brent Grant, he absolutely moves the ball, especially for his size. Pound for pound, he might be one of the longer hitters on the PGA Tour. So he is 7th in club head speed. That goes a long way around here. Does he make enough birdies? 122nd on the PGA Tour. We've seen him catch fire. We've seen him do it for one round. We haven't really seen him put it together. You're going to have to make putts. And he is consistently outside the top 150 in basically any putting range that you want. Inside 10 feet, 4 to 8 feet, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. Where do you make birdies? You make them in those ranges. I don't think he's going to be able to make enough putts to really contend around this place. But yeah, I mean, you can see it. Even gaining 3.5 strokes putting, one of his better putting weeks of his career, it only got him to a T35 at TPC Summerlin. He's just a very, very bad putter. He would need multiple facets of his game to come together, as opposed to just one facet of his game. So tough. Hey, Rick, what are your top 6 golfers? Not going to do that, but appreciate the support. Hello, Rick, with the course setup, what type of stat profile are you looking here for? Oh, what are you looking for here with short hitters to contend? Okay, so if you want short hitters to contend, they're probably going to have to be approach and putting guys. Okay, so I can probably find you a couple just as I look through the cheat sheet here. So what I'll do is I will reverse this by, actually, I'll just make it a little bit easier. I will sort it by approach play. I will look for short guys who can putt. Andrew Putnam, Mark Hubbard, Chesson Hadley. Isaiah Salinda has a very small sample size. I wouldn't be too big into that. Ben Griffin. Actually, Ben Griffin showed up a lot in some of the models that I ran. If you were watching the Monday show, Ben Griffin showed up at number 1 in a just kind of a first look model that I ran out there. And the reason I say that, you know, if you're not a longer hitter, you're going to have to be able to make a lot of birdies. The way to make a lot of birdies on the PGA Tour is hit it close and make the putt. So that combination of approach play and putting goes a long way. If you're short and you can't putt, you're probably cooked. If you're short and you can't hit your approaches, you're probably cooked. So you can have one deficiency. You cannot have multiple deficiencies. Can you show us the best lag putters? Yeah, I probably can. If you go to the Holy Grail, go to stats. This is for the season. It will be under putting, and they call it approach putt performance. So approach putt performance, it's basically, I can do 3-putt avoidance as well, but lag putting, basically, how far away are you after your first putt? So for example, Ryan Armour is the best in this field in approach putt performance. He's on average 1 foot 10 inches away. So that's how it works. So you get like Ryan Armour, Kevin Roy, Augusto Nunez, Ben Griffin, Chris Kirk. If you look at it from some of the guys that you might be playing, Cam Young is very bad in this category. Sahith is very bad. Steven Yeager's above average. Lucas Glover's awesome. Bo Hostler above average. So you can kind of look through that yourself. 3-putt avoidance would also be something that's pretty interesting. I must have another, maybe they got rid. Oh, maybe it's over here. Yeah, sorry. I have a duplicate off they changed the name of it and added a hyphen into 3-putt. avoidance. So Sahith, very good at avoiding 3 putts despite. So you got to kind of look at these together, right? Because if you're always leaving yourself 3 feet, that's bad. But if you're always making those 3-footers, doesn't really matter. So you have to kind of look at these in tandem. Sahith, much better, does not miss a lot of those second putts. Bo Hostler's even better there as well. Detry's not bad. So yeah, there's a couple of decent options. There was a question about Thomas Detry, which I'll cover here because he's someone that we haven't really chatted about a lot in depth. And the play has been good, not great. Did make 3 straight European Tour starts where he gained 4, 5, and 6 strokes to the field, 23rd, 33rd, 35th. Then played the Zozo Championship in which he finished T51. Goes back to the end of last year. I mean, this is okay. It's fine. I'm not as excited as probably I was here, which was the end of 2022 into last year's fall swing, where the advanced metrics were phenomenal. The results were better. It is still good. It's not great for Thomas Detry. There was a question about kind of doing tiers. So that reminds me that I did create the splash contest for this week, this little listener league that we've been putting on, which asks you to pick one golfer from each tier. You can enter up to 5 times. It's a top heavy payout. You can go sign up for it. Splash is available they're available in more states now. And then hopefully the goal when I started doing this on Splash was to hopefully be able to have everything under one roof, potentially one and done stuff moving forward, because they bought Run Your Pool, they bought Office Football Pool, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just do this real quick. So tier 1, Cam Young, Sahith, Ludwig, Hostler, JJ Spawn, Jaeger. This is a smaller field. I probably don't have to get too crazy here. I'm happy with basically any of the big 4, which would be Cam Young, Sahith, Ludwig, and Hostler. I think Ludwig is pretty clearly the best player in the field. I'm going to take him. Tier 2 is Hubbard, Putnam, Svensson, Kirk, Grillo, Glover. I'm worried about Glover. I've seen enough to be excited about Grillo. I'll run there. Detry, Griffin, List, Kuchar, Herbert. I've got to kind of bend the knee to the model a little bit. Ben Griffin popped up number 1 in my model earlier this week. I wouldn't mind Detry. I wouldn't mind That's basically a short list. Ryder, Kim, Gim, Davis Thompson, Keith Mitchell, KH Lee. If you do like the Colonial crossover, if you like the large greens, make enough birdies, playing decent enough golf, that would be KH Lee, which is the path that I'll go. Akshay, I have bet this week. Callum Tarrant, I love this week. Gotterup's here. I mean, this is tier 5 is actually probably the most difficult tier. There are a couple of really interesting options. I'm going Callum Tarrant. I'll differentiate a little bit. And then Taylor Pendrith, compared to the rest of these guys, looking at his salary, looking at his odds to win, is probably much better than Wu and Hardy and all those other guys. So that's the team that I'll put in. You can go ahead and put a team in. There's a link in the description. Get rocking and rolling. And then when we look at the pivots in terms of ownership, Tyler, the pivots in the 10K range are basically Jaeger and Glover, 12 and 10% respectively. Sahith, Cam Young, Ludwig, anywhere between 19 and 28% owned. That 9K range is probably Detry or Chris Kirk in terms of your pivots. Bo Hostler is capturing the most ownership in that range. If you're down in the 8Ks, Kuchar, Herbert, Hubbard would be guys catching a pivot opportunity as well as Andrew Putnam. So Putnam has missed 2 cuts in a row. If you like that, just one deficiency guy, Putnam and his lack of distance is the only deficiency. That's not the end of the world. That wouldn't be a bad pivot. 7K range, a lot going to Cam Champ, a lot going to Callum Tarrant, a lot going to EVR and Brandon Wu. I think my favorite pivot then is probably Vince Whaley at 6.7%. And then the 6K range, Kelly Craft is about 6.5% at $6,800. Isaiah Salinda, 4.1. Preston Summerhays back in the field, 7. What's Block at? Anybody playing Michael Block? Nope. Nobody's playing Michael Block. My favorite pivot would probably be Ryo Ishikawa. Get like half the ownership back on that. Will they have shot link this week? Historically, no. But I maybe they're going to make an exception because it's Tiger, and maybe because they're going to start bringing it to more events. But historically, no, there is not shot link at this event. Good work as always. Gdup or Thompson. For me, it's Davis Thompson. Again, I love the upside of Gdup. Let's prove it on the PGA Tour a little bit. Davis Thompson is actually proving it on the PGA Tour right now, and Davis Thompson has a much better pedigree than Chris Gdup does. Not take anything away from Chris Gdup, but former number one player, former number one amateur in the world, Davis Thompson is starting to ball strike the lights out of it and has a decent flat stick. Like, yeah, let's go. Yes, please. That's kind of what we're looking for here. Rick Run Goat, outright bets for this week. Yep. So caveat, don't bet what I bet. You don't have to. Go spend your money however you want. I'll spend my money however I want. I've made 4 bets. One, Ludwig at 9-1. The fall has proven that there is really a big difference between those guys who are already locked into next year and the guys that are playing in the fall. And Ludwig proved me very wrong at TPC Summerlin, proved me very wrong in Napa, just because I thought there were going to be a lot better spots for him. And he's just, I think he might be course agnostic and he might just be able to contend everywhere. So I bet Ludwig at 9-1. I bet Akshay at 33. Akshay is this incredibly high upside golfer who had a much better alternate fall or whatever you want to call it, opposite field swing. And he has thrived in tropical locations on these types of golf courses. I bet Cam Champ and I bet Taylor Pendrith at 45 and 50. So Ludwig at 9, Akshay at 33, Cam Champ at 45, Taylor Pendrith at 50. I think those guys have enough upside. Pendrith played well last time we saw him. Cam Champ, I'm a sucker for. If I bet Cam Champ previously, which I did in Vegas, I believe, then I've got to give him one more crack here because this should be an absolute spot for him. Can you deep dive on Justin Suh? Of course I can. So the big question mark before I reveal his profile here is we got to look at the flat stick. We've got to look at the flat stick. Is he putting well? And the answer is maybe. So perennially great putter, Justin Suh, loses strokes putting in Napa, loses strokes putting at home in Las Vegas, and then finishes T10 at the Zozo, in which we do not have strokes gained putting. I think it is probably safe to assume he putted better than or gained strokes putting, just because I mean, if you do it 90% of the time, it's probably pretty safe to assume that. So with that being said, that checks off one of the concerns that we had about Justin Suh. Is he long enough? No. Does he make up for it in other ways? Not always. This is tough. I think this is like a below average stat profile, right? You know, I can cut him some slack with the lack of distance. I can say, okay, he's gained strokes on approach in 2 of his last 3 and maybe in 3 out of 4 with that top 10 finish. I can give him the benefit of the doubt that he putted well, but like I'm doing a lot of what do you call that? I'm not apologizing for Justin Suh, but like I'm doing a lot of giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm doing a lot of patchwork to get there, and that makes me a little bit worried. How about your boy Harry Hall? Yeah, so Harry played much better at the Zozo Championship than I think myself and many of us expected. You know, his path is with the putter. He's going to have to give himself enough opportunities. If he does, he can compete. I think there's a little bit of nugget of positivity from that T21 at the Zozo Championship. Again, we don't know how he did it, but now he's got 3 multiple stroke to the field gains in his last 4 starts. Again, like a 4 out of 10, but last week I was a 2 out of 10. I'm not running to get access to Harry Hall. I don't think he's a super great play, but I'm more optimistic than I was last week. Are you more warm on Akshay if there's no wind? My general stance on wind is pretty lame. I don't think that we have enough information to kind of decide who's good, who's bad, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't care. Why is Jaeger priced up? Seems like he has been all fall. Not saying he's bad, but he doesn't necessarily seem to be in the same tier unless the breakthrough is imminent. Yeah, so that kind of is what stood out to me, right? So you look at the top of the board, the 10K range in particular. Ludwig is the best player in the field. He might be a generational superstar. Is that too much? Like 7 starts into his professional career. Cam Young is very clearly a top 20 player in the world. Phenomenal. He's, past rookie of the year, et cetera, et cetera. Sahith just won, and Lucas Glover has won like twice in his last 7 starts. Why is Steven Yeager here? He's not bad, as pointed out by Zach. He's not bad. The metrics are strong. Very good ball striker, very good tee to green player. But what's the upside, and what's the value of paying over $10,000 for a guy who his best finish ever might be a T9, or at least his best finish in the last year? I love the consistency. Hasn't missed a cut since Harbortown. Love the metrics. Still waiting to see what that upside is. And it's very difficult to pay for upside, or excuse me, it's very difficult to pay $10,100 for a guy with questionable upside. So I agree that it's a little bit weird pricing. I hope he does break through, because imagine, if you throw this profile out there and you add a win to it, I mean, it's kind of a completely different story. So we'll see. What player do you think will be on top of the FedEx Cup standings at the end of the fall swing? So probably, I think it's Beau Hossler's to lose. He has been one of the best players in the field over the last 36. He's been basically the best player in the fall. He is going to have a couple of really good, and he keeps playing better, right? So we're getting a guy whose short game has always been good, and he's starting to figure it out on approach. So this is in general just a very good stat profile. He's a good driver. I think this will be a decent spot for him. I think that the RSM Classic is probably going to be a decent spot for him. So yeah, it's likely to be Beau, in my opinion. Can we get a deep dive on Chesson Hadley? Sure. Let's see what Chesson is up to. Yeah, he's another guy playing pretty well, isn't he? So he's played 3 times this fall, gotten better each time, 62nd, 35th, 7th. Approach play is phenomenal. Putter, good. Yeah. The things that hurt him, he's pretty poor around the greens, but on large greens, you hope that doesn't matter. And he is both short and inaccurate. I can give him a pass for inaccurate this week because it doesn't matter. Short, I can give you a pass if you're good on approaching with the putter. He is. Let's look at his history in Mayakoba. Not that it matters. It's a different golf course, but sometimes guys get into these vibes with, Paspalum greens and tropical locations, etc. Miscut, WD miscut, but that was most recently in 2020. You can write all of that away. Has he played in Puerto Rico? Has he played in Mexico? Has he played in Corrales? Has he played in Bermuda? Let's look at some of these. T17 in Bermuda, 2 missed cuts in his last 2 trips to Corrales, a couple of top 20s at Bermuda and Corrales. He won in Puerto Rico, but that was nearly 10 years ago. I would say this is more positive than negative. Yeah, okay. I can probably get there on Chesson, like a 6.5 out of 10. He's got the one deficiency we can get away with. That's okay. Can Chris Kirk do something? Boy, I'm not usually as high on Chris Kirk as everyone else is. How's he going to separate? How does he separate from the field? Not generally off the tee. It's about average, slightly above average there. Approach play is not as strong as we've seen it and capable of being pretty sour. Around the green, I can forgive anything this week. And he hasn't putted very well. I just find this fairly uninspiring. Before I continue, this is RickRunGood.com. It's my website. You should sign up for it. Giant database for golf betting and fantasy. You should also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out every single week, which is 100% free, which has a lot of stat nuggets. I don't know why you would not be subscribed to this. It's actually very crazy if you're not. So I've got links and information and cool stuff in here. Go check that out. There's a link in the description. You can sign up. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. Do you agree with the real GFD, Greg, that this week will be a putting contest? I think that yes, in part. I think it'll be an approach and putting contest. I think it'll be a birdie fest. I think in birdie fest, you have to make a lot of putts. I do think that this will come down to a lot of guys hitting fairways and a lot of guys hitting shots to 20 and 25 feet. And the guy who makes the most of those is going to win. That is basically, there's not a lot of difference off the tee. Around the green play is probably not going to be that big of a factor. There is not going to be a wind advantage or a weather situation that can eliminate half the field. I just think it's going to be an approach and putting contest. Can we get a close look at Lucas Herbert? Yeah. So Herbert is historically one of the better putters in the world. And you can kind of see that 6.5 here to the positive at the Fortinet, 6.7 at the Travelers, generally on the positive side there. I worry about this second column. It's the gift and a curse of being a great putter is that if he gave himself enough opportunities, he'd be, I was going to say Justin Thomas, he'd be John Rahm, or he'd be Colin Morikawa might be a better example, right? Yeah, he makes a lot of his opportunities, but he doesn't get enough of them. Is kind of the way that I look at Lucas Herbert. Now, he is not just a great putter. He's a good enough driver of the golf ball, a little inconsistent, but a good enough driver of the golf ball, very fast with the club head. And one of his weakest parts is around the green play. I don't think matters. So yeah, I think that Lucas Herbert is generally a pretty solid play. Let's call it a 7 out of 10. Hey, Rick, is the betting preview going to make a return at some point? I don't know the answer to that. I think that, the iteration of Rick Run Good, the YouTube channel, has gone through so many iterations. There was a time where I only did 1 video a week. There was a time where I thought I had to do 7 videos a week. I think that I have kind of honed in on quality over quantity. I love the DFS preview on Monday. I love the Wednesday live chat. Having a Tuesday show or not having a Tuesday show allows me to be available to do a lot of different things, right? I do have to dedicate a lot of time to the database and to the website. So having a Tuesday free allows for that. There are a lot of instances I want to travel to golf tournaments and be the boots on the ground, the eyes, the insider, have information. And Tuesday is a very natural travel day to be able to do that. You go Tuesday, you get to the golf course Tuesday afternoon, you scout it Wednesday, you've got a lot of information. So that Tuesday betting preview kind of screws with scheduling a lot. Now I like the idea of more pure betting content, whether it's matchups, props. I do like the idea of emphasizing that a little bit more. Maybe it comes in the form of the newsletter. Maybe we have certain segments on the live chat. You carve out some time for one and done when January gets back here. So it's something I think about a lot. But the logistics of having Tuesday free are very, very valuable to me and very valuable to you guys to get updates to the website, to get boots on the ground, to do things like that. Did I miss the weather takes? There's really no weather. You can go back to the front of the show and check it out. When considering driving distance, what will be the lowest number to consider? Well, it's a good question. I mean, if we just do it like this, like, are you above or below average in this field? Average is basically, just kind of throwing it out at like 296-ish, something like that. So, it wouldn't matter if one guy was 320 and everybody else was 270. That wouldn't really matter. So I think like 296 seems to be about the average for this field. Above would be better than that, I guess, is the way that I look at it. Okay. I'm going to pause there for a second. Open this up. Anything you want. It can be golf related, business related, life related. I don't care. This time is for you. We'll rattle through a couple more here. I'm at the end of the questions right now. We can end this and we can all go eat lunch. I'm willing to stay a little bit longer. Just to recap here, there is a listener league contest available on Splash. There's a link in the description. You can sign up for RickRunGood.com and get access to all these great tools from 6 different tours. You can go down, sign up for my free, 100% free newsletter. That is available to you, RickRunGood.com/newsletter. I will give this about 30 more seconds here. See if we get an influx of questions rolling in. And then if not, we'll end it. That'll be fine. I'll go work on the database. I'll go, I got plenty of projects to do. I kind of teased some of the projects that I've been working on for 2024 on RickRunGood.com. I've got something in mind for kind of a better way to communicate with everybody I've got some more tools and some more data, and I am fingers crossed, hoping to have a cool one and done solution that is not just open to like the 38 states or whatever that, legal fantasy is. Might be more than that. Might be like 42 at this point, but I'm hoping to have something for everybody in the US, hoping to have something for our friends in Canada and Mexico and Europe and everywhere else. I am hoping to have a one and done solution for that. We didn't get much, admittedly. Who do you think is going to win? Hopefully one of Ludwig, Akshay, Cam Champ, or Taylor Pendrith, which is who I bet. Question here about Bryce Garnett, which you're scraping the bottom of the barrel when Bryce Garnett gets up to the scene here. Let's see. Oh boy, can't hit his second shot, can't putt very well. He is also short. That seems like a very bad situation to be in. Favorite 7 and 8K plays for me. Pendrith at $8,000. And I don't mind that Lucas Herbert play at 8,400. And then I like Callum Tarrant, Vince Whaley. And that's probably the guys I like the most in that 7K range. How often do the big tournaments on DraftKings dupe? Every week my goal is to be optimal difference. Still waiting on the big 20 win. Good question. I would have to run it. It's I guess there's always a lot of lineups that are duped. I'd be interested to see how many lineups are duped compared to how many winning lineups are duped. Just because people tend to go the same way. Golf's pretty volatile. I would have to run that. Maybe that is a question for like a newsletter deep dive at some point. Oh, Troy Merritt. Yeah, I wish this was a better golf course for Troy Merritt because he is playing really great golf here. So, he's got the T7, the T9, and then he didn't play particularly well at the Shriners, but I wish this was a better course for him. I worry that he starts going back to losing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes putting. I think let's catch up with him next week or the week after. I just don't think that this feels like kind of forcing it a little bit. In weeks where scoring is going to be low, does this help the studs or the scrubs more? I guess if you think about John Rahm, and his disdain for putting contests, it would help the scrubs more, right? So if everyone plays from the same positions throughout the golf course, which is generally what's going to happen here, and everyone is got, let's call it, I don't know, 25 birdie looks from 15 to 20 feet or 15 to 25 feet. The way you're going to separate yourself from the field is with the flat stick, and that is the most volatile of skills. Even the best putters in the world might have an off week. The worst putters in the world might roll everything in. So just the nature of that volatility in the way that you're going to be able to separate yourself the most is good for the scrubs, right? If this was Riviera, and there were a lot of different ways to separate yourself, and guys are not playing from the same position. Some guys are playing from the middle of the fairway. Some guys are playing from the fescue. Some guys are playing from thick rough. That is a way to separate yourself. That helps the studs. More ways to separate yourself helps the studs. One way to separate yourself helps the scrubs. And the one way that you can separate yourself is the most volatile way is scrubs for help. I'm actually probably going to have Chipotle today. I think that's the play. I had a buffalo chicken sandwich yesterday. Not that would stop me. If you were the lead singer of the band, what would you name it? Rick and the Kismets. Rick and the Pinheads. Is that what Marty McFly's band was called? Who do you feel from the studs is most likely to miss the cut? I think they're all good enough. I don't this is always such a trap question, right? But I will say, I think there are concerns about Lucas Glover. Lucas Glover's best skill set, driving accuracy, one of the most deadly accurate drivers on tour, is mitigated here. The other problem is he might have found lightning in a bottle putting a couple of times, but he might not actually be that good of a putter, right? This might not be sustained because even during this unbelievable stretch of golf that he's played, best golf of his career, he has still had as many losing weeks with the flat stick as winning weeks. So if he loses 2 strokes putting, he's not winning this, and you're paying a pretty significant price. I think he is, from tee to green, he is good enough. He is a ball striking maniac that he will probably not miss the cut, but I do think that is troublesome. Has the sphere face mocked you yet? No, I've not played the win yet since the sphere has been done. It's very busy in Vegas right now. I mean, with it's a great time to be in Vegas. The F1s, I've been like avoiding the strip. The F1 stuff is madness. It's only going to be madness from here. It's interesting. Why is Andy's final thoughts always so different from your picks? Because we're 2 different humans, Mike, trying to decide and handicap a very difficult thing to handicap. It's probably a good thing. I don't know. Everybody should think for themselves. But yeah, I mean, listen, we don't collaborate. We don't talk. My thoughts are my thoughts. His thoughts are his thoughts. Everybody's thoughts should be their own thoughts, right? I'm just trying to look at it through a very logical, reasonable view with very little biases and say, here's what I think are outcomes that are more likely than others, and understanding that it's incredibly difficult to get this all figured out. That's all. Okay. We made it further than I thought. There's a little bit of juice in this event. A little bit of juice. I'll be ready to rock and roll Thursday morning. It'll get a little bit later of a start, I guess, because it's on the West Coast. It's at Baja, California. How does Armina feel about the new Swiftie album? Is it new or did she just re-release? I guess it's technically new. I don't know. I haven't talked about it yet. She is going to go see the movie, I think, tomorrow. She asked me if I wanted to go. I said I would go with her. I got no problem going to watch the movie. I think the what Taylor Swift has done, the business entity, all of that stuff, I think it's fascinating. I have no problem going to see the movie, but something happened. I have something else tomorrow afternoon, I think. And she wanted to go, and she's like, I'm an independent woman. I'm going to go by myself. So she's going to go by herself and watch it. I'll get all of her thoughts and reactions about that. All right. That'll do it. Hopefully she's still producing the show and she's going to wrap this up here as I give her the cue. But otherwise, much appreciated. Just go check out the Splash contest, get involved, go check out the newsletter. All the stuff's in the description that you need. Cabo tomorrow morning, not for me, but for the PGA Tour. Best of luck. I'll talk to you guys soon.